What's up, y'all? You know what time it is. It's about to be that
What's
time.
up, everybody? We're back. One Piece 1155. Let's continue the Rox D. Zebek flashback. It's not even the Loki flashback anymore. But once we got that little tease of Zebek, 10 or 15 chapters ago, whatever it was, maybe even less than that, I knew this was not going to be the Loki flashback to begin with. Shout out to everybody that's joining us today. We'll go ahead and we'll get right into it. I haven't been spoiled, so, but I can only imagine that this one's going to be great based on the way that everything ended last time. So we got to get some information. We got to get some. I just want to get like heat after heat after heat as far as like lore goes. Hopefully, that's really all I want. I want some answers. I want some insight into this character, and hoping that this is where we get it. Where else are we gonna get it? Okay, we got a color spread this week, so I didn't even know that was happening. It's cool. I'm zooming in on this. I like Zoro's fit. Nami and Jinbei, though. Brook with an oversized hat, something I don't know if we've ever seen before. There is a billboard with Luffy's Gear 5 pose on it. If you guys haven't noticed, right under Luffy's right arm. Yeah. Okay. Feels like a classic. I enjoy it. So we're going to head over to page 3 here, which is what's going to start the fun. All right. 1155, the Rox Pirates. Okay. Yeah, this is Elbaf, but my dad ain't here. He's on an expedition. Womp womp. Are you puny humans? I've never seen your kind before. You really do scurry around. Oh. This guy's, young Loki's giving Arlong here. Someone's saying it's lagging. Other people are saying it's not lagging. Oh, you're adorable. Wait, did you say Dad? Are you Harold's kid? Even on an expedition, you can still get in touch with him. What's your name? Loki. Okay, Loki, you're gonna do as I say. Go back home right now. Get someone to contact your old man. Here's the message you tell them to pass on. Loki is gravely wounded. Return to Elbaf at once. Huh? Since when do I have to listen to what you humans have to say? Next page. Plus, it's not like Dad would come back home just because I got hurt. Stop ordering me around, you little weakling. Rox's sword attacks were famous for blasting everything in sight, like a gigantic hammer or cannonball. Okay, we got our first Rox attack. And the positioning for it, very reminiscent of Divine Departure. Voha. There, what did I just say? Loki's gone and gotten wounded. This man had crossed Harold's path. Oh, thank you for taking us to the Reverie. That's what I said I wanted last time. We're seeing Emu. Something I had said last week was that for him to be, you know, the most dangerous wanted man in the world and all that stuff, he's got to know about the existence of Emu. I want Rox to know things, so at the Reverie, 1 year. 1 year. It's not 1 year ago, it's just at some Reverie, at some point, somewhere. 5 kings have been attacked and captured. It's an abduction. They were taken by a large man dressed in black. The lives of kings are no threat to Mu. I suppose not, but your holy land is in a panic. In a historical anomaly never repeated before or since, someone infiltrated the Chamber of Flowers at the very core of the Holy Land. I'm gonna take this, because I've been saying this.
Another one.
And we've got a younger Gunko here. We can tell because of the eyes. Next page. Man described himself as a worshipper of Davy Jones. Oh. Davy Jones relevancy. Davy Jones relevancy. Ugh. The Randy from 2004 is feeling really validated for all those Arlong Park Davy Jones theories. I'm gonna just take this. He did not do anything more than this, as he knew he could not. But before he departed, he left a warning. I'll be back.
Come with me if you want to live.
That's goat activity. Right here. Naturally, word of this incident never saw the light of day, but as it happened, one other man infiltrated the Holy Land at the same time. Look at him, he's far bigger than a giant. I desire him for a slave. Now he should be cute and stuff for display. Guards, protect your lieges. Alright, there's Harold running amok. Hot, hot, hot. Fine, fine, the talks are off. I apologize for trespassing, but is this really necessary? Don't let the king abductor get away. No, that wasn't me. The admiral's been defeated. His attacker went to the palace. Be wary. Huffa. What is all of this hubbub about? Bring me the big one. He must be the one who kidnapped the kings. I'm not going to be the fall guy. I'll seize him and... A giant in the Holy Land? Is this guy lost or something? Next page. Okay, a clash between Harold and Rox. Love this. This clash between strangers eradicated any sign of others for 5 kilometers around. Ha 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 ha. Name yourself. But I am Harold. I'm Rox. Aim at the town with the next blow. If they capture us, they'll turn you into a slave. What? Why? Don't think, just do it. Next page. Which way is Elbaf? The new world's that way. If you survive, let's meet again, Harold. Never, I don't consort with villains. What? You jumped off? The Navy Admiral that Rox had just struck down perished of his wounds despite emergency measures. After his many crimes of the day, Rox's name was launched into infamy and his deeds stunned the rest of the world. Love a good bounty shot. Sometime later, he attacked a ship laden with heavenly tributes en route to the Holy Land. Not only that, he destroyed the Gate of Justice and fled once again. He destroyed the Gate of Justice. Now that's impressive. With this ship and money as his initial base to work from, Rox dove into the pirating business. But what was he doing before that? I really like the things we were talking about last week about maybe Rox being a king of a nation. Next page. His activities were always hostile towards the government, but his first target was actually another pirate ship. Looks like we're seeing wanted posters for Shiki, Whitebeard. I can't make out the third one. Anyway. In the pirating world, there had long existed a famous and merciless game played between crews. The Davy Backfight consisted of various competitions in which pirates gambled the fate of crewmates and flags. Davy Backfight coming back. This was a long-standing theory for the Rox Pirates that he got his crew through the Davy Backfight. Rox made good use of this game to assemble a very solid lineup for himself. At this point, his motley crew of miscreants flew no flag. And that was when they arrived at Elbaf. They've got something amazing. You guys are going to be shocked. That's it. I like that he had the boxing gloves on in the one shot, though. That's great. Alright, anyway, next page. Arus Castle, Elbaf. I hurried back as soon as I could, but you're already nearly healed up. What a relief. I know you're a very strong boy, Loki, but you should stay away from the underworld. You should join me, Harold. Of course, this was going to be his goal here. Just what we talked about. AJ1218 said, little known fact, Randy Troy gets his mods by Davy Backfights. That's true. I'm a groggy ring menace. The world government's not going to hear you out anyway. Didn't you learn that lesson last time? Nonsense. The day I team up with a band of infamous rogues like you is the day our allies lose all faith in us. Gee, appreciate the feast. Let's see. You're lucky you only fell from a cliff this time. There are plenty of other dangers. I'm probably going out of order here. Yeah, I'm definitely going out of order. Alright. Know you're a very strong boy, Loki, but you should stay away from the underworld. You're lucky you only fell from a cliff this time. There are plenty of other dangers that could befall you there. Can't believe Dad actually came back. That was just a coincidence, right? He wouldn't come back just to see me. Come on, Loki. Rox, I've heard all about your exploits. What are you doing here? Dying to see you, pal. You should join me, Harold. Government's not going to hear you out anyway. Didn't you learn that lesson last time? Nonsense. The day I team up with a band of infamous rogues like you is the day our allies lose all faith in us. What, so you'd rather be ground beneath the world government's healed? I'm looking for a way to avoid that. We ought to be equals, every one of us. Now you're talking nonsense, Harold. Elbaf is a nation of almighty warriors. Anything you don't like, you can just smash to bits. This is our first look at the Rocks Pirates here. Shiki is, well, at this stage. Shiki's very Wano-coded. I have no idea who this Transylvanian Lelusian man on the left is. Very vampire-esque. And then this is probably our first real look at an alive Silver Axe. He's probably from Kano. Hope we see more. And then we have like just some like random mob guy. A very Caribou looking man. That's an interesting take. Caribou's dad? So those were pages 12 and 13. I think I'm on 14 now. That's ancient history. Elbaf is changing. People's nature doesn't ever change. I know that fighting blood in your veins is bubbling over. Can't we at least eat in peace? You people follow this man, only disaster awaits you. Follow? This fool? Don't make me laugh. We're all individuals. If Rox dies, it won't affect the rest of us in the least. That's true, but his plan is very appealing to me. We're set to make a killing. You know about Fullaled, the island of exiles? They call it Pirate Island. Ship out all the hardened criminals there that countries can't handle in their own prisons. So, Fullaled was like a Alcatraz Guantanamo Bay situation? Shiki was considered a mobster. Okay. I'm sure that is probably written like Yakuza. Right. With that outfit, like, they gotta be saying that Shiki's from Wano or something. Science robber, Miss Buckin. Then gangster of the West Blue, Don Marlin. I'd love if this guy had some connection to Capone. I knew he had to be from the West Blue when I saw his vibe. Oh, cool. We're getting the rest of them here, too. Okay, we got Pirate, Newgate. This is Wangzhe? Holy crap.
なんというビッグニュース。
The amount of times that we've talked about this guy, the amount of theories that I've had connected to this man, finally putting a face to it, and then realizing from the visual elements here that this is clearly someone related to Caribou and Korobu. And then now Caribou joining Blackbeard. Basically fulfilling like a generational thing here. Making you understand why Caribou was so featured throughout this whole second half of the story, why he had a cover story. Oh man. It's supposed to be a deserted island without food, where the damned simply wait to die. But in recent years, they survived and built up a settlement there. How do you think that happened? Turns out that there's a gold lode under that island. When the criminal underworld found out, they rushed to help mine it. The prisoners made themselves a fortune, the government seeing red. Pirate smuggler Gangshui. That island's crawling with vicious brigands. Get anywhere near it and they'll rob you blind. So we made a deal with the government. Says to them, if we get that island back, how much will you give us? If they're willing to pay us, sure. We'll go raid Pirate Island and split the treasure between us. We ain't giving the government the island or the prisoners. This is basically okay. This is tying into the actual Longzhi, right? Because the actual Longzhi was somebody that worked with the government as basically a privateer, basically a warlord. You know, split the profits, and then they'll look the other way for your crimes. So they're trying to strike up a deal where they'll get Hachinosu they'll get all of the they'll basically take everybody out on Hachinosu. And then the government has to split whatever gold and everything that's there with them. Oh, it's so real life Longzhi coded. And then for him to take over the island afterwards means that this transaction probably did actually occur. I am sitting in my chair sideways. Sitting sideways. That island is crawling with vicious brigands. Get anywhere near it and they'll rob you blind. So we made a deal with the government. If we get that island back, how much will you give us? If they're willing to pay us, sure, we'll go and raid Pirate Island, split the treasure between us. But we ain't giving the government the island or the prisoners. I'm gonna roll over full of lead. I'll get the idiots who live there to help me build a pirate's paradise. Can't you just see the dumbfounded looks on the government and Navy's faces? Okay, so what Blackbeard's doing now is actually what his dad wanted. Which makes me think that Wong might betray Rox and take the deal. And then the whole Rocky Port incident was because Wong betrayed Rox and did the deal. Next page. This is just the prologue to my life, with that island as my base. I'll wipe out the Navy and bring the Holy Land to its knees, and in the end, I'll be king of the world. You're making an enemy out of the entire world? It's too much to handle. Go ahead and doubt me. Sooner or later, someone's going to do it. There's no authority in the world that lasts forever. Let's go, Harold. If we team up, we're unstoppable. Loki's watching this and getting inspired. Next page. Save your breath, I'm a king. You think I care? Let's go and take over the world. The next thing Loki knew, his outlook on life had been saved. 4 years later, after Harold ignored repeated invitations, Rox finally carried out his plan. A formidable lineup that joined him caused the world to quake with terror. Let's get going, boys. The end. We're gonna see some stuff next chapter. I love how Zebek was just aura farming with Emu at the beginning. He's just sitting there like, alright, I know you exist. Deuces. That's his goal. He just wants to be this. He wants to be Emu. Coming back to take your spot. I'm just scanning through the chapter again here. What a chapter. I love that we got, you know, just context on a lot of these guys. They ship out all the hardened criminals there that countries can't handle in their own prisons. But isn't that what level 6 Impel Down is supposed to be?
Savage.
You know, it also reminds me of Arkham City, like the video game, where they just put a big wall around a part of the city, and they're just like, yeah, you know what? That's we got nothing. We got nothing for these guys. Let them run amok over there. But it's like, what's the point of Impel Down if you've got full of lead? And who's watching it? Like, now that's what I want the next chapter to be about. Like, the actual landscape of Full of Lead, and like how it works as a prison, how it works as a country, who's overseeing it, all of that. I want to know everything about it now. But I see how, with everything that Oda's saying here about it, that it would become a pirate's paradise, where just a bunch of criminals are there, kind of like, you know, it's Gold Rush era California. Everybody rushed to Full of Lead to start mining it, and the strong survived and built up the settlement. And now Rox is going to go up there, assert himself as the strongest, and then take it over. But the fact that it ended up in the care of Wong, it's crazy. And then for Caribou to reach heights of notoriety following the Rocky Port incident is interesting as well. But my going theory right now is that Wong betrays Rox at God Valley. Somebody's going to be responsible for the downfall of this man. And I think like greed is gonna get him taken down. Because for Wong to be the one that takes over the island, like he and the real life Wang Zhu was basically just a slimy privateer for basically a warlord working with Japan and China to take down other pirates and split the loot and all that kind of stuff. So for him to eventually go ahead and make that work. Because it's the only way that it makes sense to me, is if Wong took the deal that is being described here as far as like what they weren't going to do, what Rox wanted from all of this is what, you know, ultimately Blackbeard is doing. So it's like, for Blackbeard to go and take over Full Lead, aside from the fact that it's like, you know, what his dad wanted and all this other stuff, he's got to be going into the situation because something, whatever was going on there was a different situation than what his dad wanted. So we're being told by Oda basically what ended up happening to Hachinosu, in the same breath that we're learning what Blackbeard intends to do with it, what Zebek intended to do with it. And the only way that that makes sense is, I mean, I'm sure that there's probably a way to make it work where Wong doesn't betray Rox, but I think it's more interesting for story if we do get something like that. And considering that, you know, he's still such a mysterious character, I feel like it works in that way. Very motivated, said like D-Stream. I agree.
I'm about to make a name for myself, yeah.
Together we're stronger.
Stronger together.
Together we're stronger.
Alejandro Salas, member for 25 months, said 100% agree that this could be the start of the Warlords. Yeah. Could be a thing where, like, the first 7 Warlords started after God Valley and were members of the Rox Pirates that had agreed to... Oh, man. Ooh, could you imagine if the first 7 Warlords were all Rox Pirates that turned on Rox during God Valley? Like, if the 5 Elders, like, promised them immunity and all of this other stuff, and, like, that's how he actually goes down? And then it was just a process that continued 38 years later. Shout out to Cone Killer Confuser. Appreciate the super. Said Rox is to swordsmanship as Happy Gilmore is to golf. He uses that thing like a baseball bat. Shout out to Alejandro Salas. Super that said Rox Pirates got previous titles. Do you think the Straw Hats are going to get new titles end of series like Black Flame, Sanji, Iron Ship, Frankie, Mystic Doctor, Chopper? Interesting. Maybe. King of Hell Zoro. Weather Witch Nami. We'll have to wait and see. Blazers said, Randy, where are the elders and holy knights during this reverie? Asleep, probably. Saeed said, which I know, we know that Crocodile was one of the earliest warlords in his 20s, and that was around the time Roger died 24 years ago. Yes. Because he joined shortly after that, because according to the SBS, when he fought Whitebeard, he actually was already a warlord as a rookie. Which is interesting. And it also makes it much easier to understand why he would have a 2 billion bounty now, 20 years later, compared to his very low bounty that was canceled. That's why he's the best warlord. Hasson or Has One said, Randy, is Rox's sword the one Emu used to cut Blackbeard and Luffy's bounty poster? I don't know. I have to go back to that chapter. 908, 909, 907. Weekly Jonin said, in my opinion, the start of the Warlords was the deal Rox made to secure Beehive. World government fumbled, but probably saw an opportunity for higher dirty work. Yeah, if you're just tuning in, Weekly, that's what I've been talking about, because it ties into which is something that I've talked about a lot in regards to Wang Zhi's, that the real life story has to do with basically where Oda probably got the idea for the Warlord system in the first place. So one of my long-standing theories regarding that character is that he would probably have something to do with the formation of the Warlord system, perhaps being one of the original Warlords, etc., etc. And there's videos about that. Emil Diaz, Superintendent said, maybe the General Zombies were the first warlords the government kept, and were the first warlords, and the government kept their corpses after their death. Moria exchanged for them by becoming one. That's interesting. Now I want to know who killed them, though. Because in this idea, I would think that these guys survived God Valley by turning on rocks, and then would then go on to live for another, say, 10 years or so. So in that situation, basically saying that oh well. We have somebody in the chat that needs to get banned. Let's see. Shin said Crocodile is the only warlord pirate that gets the highest jump from 80 mil to 1.9 billion. That's a jump of 240%. I love that math. Let's see. That's right. No hate here. Yeah, Crocodile, I think, did the math. He was about 8 years old or something, somewhere around 8 years old during God Valley. Mihawk is around the same age, probably a year younger than Crocodile, I think. I remember I did a whole video where I looked at everybody's ages, like who would actually be alive during God Valley, who could reasonably be there, and Moria was also alive during that time. It would be cool if Crocodile did have some sort of a connection to one of these guys. But essentially, I would think based off of a lot of this that our first set of warlords would have been Wang Zhe, maybe Marlin, Gangshui, John. But John's not here yet, which is interesting. Gil Bastar. Maybe Miss Buckin, honestly, for her to get cloned and all of that. Like, it would probably make sense if she was one. What if Gloriosa was one too? So it's like the deal that they had with with Amazon Lily is actually generational, and there's and it started with her. I don't know. I mean, just throwing things out. Almay said, could Croc at the very least be inspired by Don Marlin? Well, I've always said that Croc had, with his mobster aesthetic, like he had to have been, like his Shanks or something had to have been some mobster. And I think we could reasonably be looking at, when we see Don Marlin, you know, with the cigar aesthetic and all of that, like this could be we could be looking at Crocodile Shanks right here. We could be looking at the guy that inspired Crocodile. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, Capone, but there's multiple mob families in the West Blue, and I actually find it more interesting if Capone isn't in any way related to this guy, but more so to like another family in the West Blue, because it actually expands the world a bit more. Since Capone isn't someone that I feel is going to play a big role in the end game of the story, I feel like if he's tied to Marlowe, it makes the world feel smaller. But if it's Crocodile that's inspired by this guy, then it keeps the world feeling wide, and then like follows this sort of inherited will thing where it's like, okay, it makes sense that he became a warlord, you know? Like maybe Marlowe died and like Crocodile took that spot because that was his mentor, you know, as a rookie. Like he
You loyal.
Aether, member chatted, member for 6 months, said, I called that this arc would be a huge one for Blackbeard. I've also been saying Triple Skulls will tie him to the Ancient Giants somehow. Those 3 skulls will have some significance for sure. And I mean, obviously, like Ors had it there, but I don't know. I don't know what's going to end up happening. AJ1218 said, Rocks formed a powerful crew via force, which can be successful but not permanent. He even mentioned in this chapter, no authority lasts forever. Yeah, which is why I buy the idea that in the end, he gets betrayed by his people. So it's like, yeah, Garp and Roger were, you know, fighting them and everything like that, but if it ends up being a thing like what happened with Squard, right, where the 5 elders or admirals at the time or whatever, or the Holy Knights start whispering in the ears of all of the other Rocks pirate members, right? But Newgate doesn't listen, you know, which would echo sort of the squad thing, right? Shiki doesn't listen, but John does. Guangxi, or whatever his name is, does. Wang Zhi does. You know, which him backstabbing, you know, like ties into what we know of Caribou anyway. Caribou's a snake, so if his father is, like, I'm okay with that. Gil does. Stussy does. You know, which maybe ties into, like, the path that she's on now, right? Where, you know, her dream died, you know, in the way that Oda draws her. So, you know, but then her, quote, son with Whitebeard becomes a warlord, like maybe she was at a time.
Savage.
AJ1218, member for 50 months.
Woo, I'm about to make a name for myself, yeah.
I hope every Rocks member has a reason to betray. Whitebeard sees Rocks steal kids, Big Mom something with food, or not getting to have his kids. See, but the thing is that I don't think that Whitebeard will betray Rocks. I think in the end, like, it seems like Whitebeard would be the, you know, the most against Rox's values or anything like that, but I really think that if they start trying to whisper into his ears, the members of the crew that inevitably became emperors, I think they're the ones that didn't betray Rox, and the ones that could have potentially become warlords or died and became, you know, zombies from Moria. They're the ones that ultimately became the ones to betray him. Terrible TJ said, what if Don Marlin backstabs Rox instead of Wang Zhi? He looks like a Cypher Pole agent. Maybe they all betray Rox. I'm putting Marlin in there as well, because I think it's possible that, like, he could have been a warlord with all this. I think that this is the start of the warlord system. And I love that, you know, that idea that I've had for a while now, since we've been talking about, you know, since I looked into the origins of the real life Wang Zhi, and then, like, saw the connections there. Now everything with Full Lead and all of that, it really just, I don't know. I feel like it's all coming together here. And we have never once been told how long the warlord system has been around. Like, we've heard about the balance of power, but it's like, has the balance of power been an 800-year-old thing, or is it something that started 38 years ago? We have no way of knowing. What's the likelihood of Blackbeard betraying his crew? Blackbeard losing at the end of the story because he betrayed his crew can mirror Zebek dying at God Valley because his crew's betrayal. It's a tug. I mean, it's a powerful echo. And what I like about the idea is that since he didn't grow up with his father, he wouldn't have the values that his father had. So where his dad wouldn't have betrayed any of them, I don't think. I would like that to be, or at least I would like that to be a characteristic of Zebek. That even though he had, you know, assembled this motley crew through force, he would die for them, that he wouldn't betray them, but ultimately they did betray him.
Savage.
Lewis said, I don't see Shiki betraying Rox. It's too obvious. Yeah, that's how I feel. Emil Diaz, member for 15 months.
Woo, I'm about to make a name for myself, yeah.
Don Marlon Brando. Well, you know that's obviously where the name is coming from. I love it, though. Seal Vladivanovici supered and said, headcanon, what if after God Valley, Zebek takes refuge in Elbaf and Herald to ally with the world government is the last one to sell him out. Into Brute. Ooh. Be crazy. I don't know if I want that though, because I can't imagine that happening without Loki knowing, and that would strain his relationship with his father. And it seemed like they were on good terms before he killed him. Karan Brown, appreciate the super, said, hear me out. I think Stussy and Gloriosa are using the same technique as Hyogoro and Lao Ji. It's just being played for a gag. With their their bodies, like the way they look now. They just need their they just got to get their groove back. Saeed said it's implied he died at God Valley. Yeah, I would prefer that that's the case. And I would love if it's a thing where, like, yeah, his crew that he assembled turned on him. And I feel like there was a line in this chapter where, yeah, here, we're all individuals. If Rox dies, it won't affect the rest of us in the least. Stussy, that's true. But his plan is very appealing to me. We're set to make a killing. Yeah. They're all gonna turn on him. But I think that Shiki and Whitebeard will be among the ones that don't. But I like the idea of Miss Buckin being the one being part of the team that does it. That, like, greed turns against them. So it's like Buckin and Marlin, Wangji and Gangshui, they will be among the 4 out of 7 people that turn against them. And then we'll throw John and Gil in there, and then there's got to be one last person that turns on him. And I don't know if we've been introduced to that 7th person yet. Because I like the idea of Shiki saying it won't affect us, the rest of us in the least, if he dies. But I like the idea of him being affected by it. Because the other thing too, right, is like, this is a dude that got so mad about what happened to Roger that he, like, on his own went to Marineford and started, like, trying to, like, mess things up and fought Garp and Sengoku on behalf of, like, his enemy, right? So this dude that he's riding with here, like, I feel like I wouldn't be surprised if Shiki is the one that like ends up killing a lot of these guys afterwards. Like, that would be great lore for Shiki. Like, it would be cool also if Shiki was technically like an emperor for a little bit before he got locked up. I don't know. And what I like about this too also is because it echoes the journey that Ace was on in the first place and what Blackbeard is doing in the story. Like, so like if all of the members, like a lot of these Rocks pirates ended up backstabbing Rocks, and then you have Blackbeard who backstabbed Thatch on Whitebeard's crew, and you have Whitebeard be one of the people who didn't backstab Rocks, but then he let his son into his crew, and essentially he got backstabbed and eventually killed by this guy's son, but he was the one who really rode for Rocks. Like, that's where you get the drama, right? That's where it comes all together, and you're just like, man, Blackbeard is like, he's trash. You're trash, Brock. It's like this man takes him in as his own son. And I would prefer that it's not out of guilt for betraying Rocks, but rather because he was one of the ones who didn't betray him. And then ultimately he gets betrayed. I feel like I was going to loop that back around again onto something else with Blackbeard, but I lost it. But there's layers here. There's good layers. Clone Killer said, I still expect the clone Kurazumi among the Rocks crew. Ah, yeah, Higurashi. She could be, she could be that seventh person. But then I also, like, I don't know how, because Rocks is gonna be Kaido's Shanks also. That if Higurashi trade Rocks, it would seem weird for Kaido to keep her around. Because the other thing too is that I want all of the people that betray him to be the first warlords. And I don't see her being a warlord. Crushknot said, if they betray Rocks, does that mean they betray Davy Back Promise too? Then their souls belong to Davy Jones. Ooh, I like that. Blazer said, Randy, you should compare the Rocks wanted poster to Buggy's. Put this up against the page. Mirror images. The same handout and everything. It's actually insane. It is a complete mirror image.
Savage.
What's he trying to say? Rocks D Buggy? Marshall D Buggy? The hand is exactly the same. Like, sure, the tongue pose and all of that, like, that doesn't bother me. The thing that I find really interesting about the photo is the hand. Exactly the same. Buggy was commenting on Blackbeard during the Odin flashback in a way that didn't seem like they were familiar with each other.
Savage.
I'm looking back on this stuff now. $9.66. What was the line? Are they apprentices? Yeah, they've been around for ages. It says teach about the other two. They don't look very tough. They get the attitude of grown men. Buggy says to Shanks, you see that guy wearing the hat? Referring to Teach. I heard he didn't sleep a wink during the ceasefire last night or the night before. They say he's never slept in his life. Is that even possible? Lucky guy. But he has...
Savage.
His life has been twice as fun. That's not the point, don't you get it? He's a monster. So, I mean, it's interesting that Buggy would, like, call out Blackbeard specifically and have some dialogue about him. But there's really nothing about their features that, when they're young, that make me think that they're similar, other than their eyes. They have similar eyes. Like, Oda draws their eyelashes the same on these close-ups. I don't know, guys. Javits Arias just supered and said that Jebek, translated from Vietnamese to English, means buggy. serious? Well, I did English to Vietnamese and I put buggy and the X is E is there, but I don't see BEC. So it means bus. So that's sort of like a rough translate. I can't buy into that too much. But I mean there's at least 2 letters there, so but that's I'm not gonna go too far into that one. Henry DH said, I'm Vietnamese. Even that's a reach for me. Yeah, I just did a bunch of Google translations to try and get it. It didn't work for me. XE itself means car or vehicle. Gotcha. But it's a fun thought. Very motivated, super and said buggy stonks stay up is what he's saying. Yeah. Crush Not Super and said if they betray rocks, does that mean betray the David back promise too? Then their souls belong. Oh yeah, we were just talking about that. I want that to be part of the lore. I want there to be something like really supernatural about the Davy back fight. Weekly Jonan supered and said, "What?" Rox and Whitebeard are similar to Roger and Garp. My son's gonna be important. I'm leaving him to you. And Whitebeard either does it out of honor or a lost bet. I mean, it is an interesting parallel. Garp was... Garp took care of Roger's kid. Whitebeard took care of Rox's kid. Rox's kid was the downfall of Whitebeard, but Ace was not the downfall for Garp. But Rox's kid kind of also is the downfall of Garp in a way, depending on how things go. Emil Diaz said blue-haired Rox. I mean, if we get the coloring for Rox and his hair is blue, then Oda's got some splaining to do. Brandon said Davy Jones in real life is the leader of the Monkees, a band taking after the Beatles. Davy Jones in One Piece's Joy Boy takes after Nika similarly, so named the very first pirate crew Davy Jones and his rubber band, as Oda making a Beatles reference. He does like music a lot. I wouldn't be surprised if there's, you know, we have Monkey D. Luffy, and then you have Davy Jones here, and if there's something that ties into the the music of it all, that's just a, you know, a fun thing. I won't say that it's enough to say like this is definitely going to be this because of that, but there may be something that's thrown in there just for that. Like if we ever see Davy Jones and he does an attack, like his attack might be a song that the monkeys made, you know, or something like that. Like that I could see being a thing that Oda would do. Crush Knot, math piece, next chapter has Luffy's number in it, 56. I got nothing right now. Double O Flev, appreciate the super, said, Moria's previous fruit user put Rox's shadow in Blackbeard. Teach is quite literally living in a shadow, and that's why they said he must have had twice the fun. Also, Rox was Himothy. Oh, he was Himothy Chalamet. He was Himbo Slice. He was him Cameron. I mean, it's just, I called it before, but I called it out before, but I mean, just the aura farming of him just sitting watching Emu. It was outrageous. I love it. But the Moria Rock Shadow thing, I don't know. Because it means that Moria would have had to have had the fruit at like 8 years old and been on God Valley, which he's from the West Blue, so not entirely impossible. Then take his shadow, put it into a 1-year-old Blackbeard, but then do it in a way at 8 years old where Blackbeard can sort of be a daywalker like Blade and not get burnt by the sun. So that's the other thing that bumps me about all the like Moria shadow stuff is just the sun, you know. But then again, and this might just be just because it's the anime, but like, you know, the anime made Marineford daytime. I think Marineford like needs to be night because Moria is pulling, you know, shadows out of the ground and zombies and creating these zombies out of the fallen Marines. And it's like, if it's daytime, they're done. Crush said info dump on the Gomu Gomu would fit in the next chapter. Yeah, that'd be cool. But I with the way the chapter ends, like them sailing on their way to Hachinosu, like I don't even want to see Loki in the next chapter. I just want to see the Rocks Pirates going off on Hachinosu. DJ Rick Comment said, why was Gunko dressed like Mother Carmel? I don't think she was dressed like Mother Carmel. I feel like she was just dressed like some of the attendants that we've already seen for Emu. So, I don't know. She's just part of Emu's secret harem, I guess. Brandon says, still can't get over how Longitude looks. Do not expect this man to look so snake-like and sneaky. Well, I've always felt that he had to be somebody that was shisty. Because the lore is shisty, so he's got to be somebody that was gonna like backstab. So like, this is all actually really just fitting into everything that I've wanted out of the character. I did not expect the way that he looked, and I did not expect him to look exactly like Caribou and Korobu. But man, I love it. Now this I love. Emil, what if Rox had Brook's fruit before Brook and returned it to his son's body instead of his own? I love that. The problem with it is that he died 12 years after Brook had died. Like, that would be a really cool thing if the timeline matched up. But unfortunately, God Valley was 38 years ago and Brook died 50 years ago. So he already had his fruit. Unless Brook's fruit went back into recirculation after he died. And he technically still has the fruit. But then Rox ate the fruit and then died. Like, how does that work? Like, does the fruit not go back into recirculation until after Brook's second life? Because he's still able to, like, use, you know, like, his abilities and his soul form and all of that, which implies that he still has, you know, the fruit, and he's still cast out by the sea, can't swim. But that is, I mean, that's an interesting angle. Growthstock Superden said, Davy Jones is a mythical figure in contrast to Nika, introduced as early as chapter 33. Blackbeard likely has that fruit which controls the abyss, Davy Jones's locker. Hito no Mi model Davy Jones. And that's the abyss, Davy Jones's locker. I would say that's wild, and but at the same time, I'm like, I don't know. Lewis said there's a theory that Rox was turned into stone with the Maramara fruit. Well, it's a good theory, right? Because it's already built into the story that Blackbeard wants to undo the work of a previous user of that fruit, right? That has to play into Blackbeard's, but like I can't write that off. I can't say that that's not a thing. I like my idea more of 7 members of his crew turning their backs on him, taking him out, and then becoming the warlords, but him being turned to stone and being kept somewhere is something that we can't say, like we have to acknowledge it as a possibility, because he went out of his way to go after Hancock to get that fruit. Now, the only difference there is that while they were on Egghead, they did not go out of their way to try and get S-Snake, who has the same power, which bothered me a little bit. So I still need to know more about what all of this is or means. Like, it would have been cool if Wang Zhi had Boa's fruit, but we know that Boa has had her fruit for much longer. Now, what could be interesting is if someone on the Rocks Pirates did have that fruit. So, like, the 7th person, right, that we don't know yet, has the Marrow, right? Dies at God Valley shortly after, or something, you know, or becomes a warlord, whatever. And then the fruit goes back into the circulation of the world government, just in time for Boa to eventually eat it. Maybe. Because it's like, Boa got her fruit reasonably around the same time that Luffy got his. Because Boa gets kidnapped and Luffy... No, sorry. No. Luffy's born around the same time that she gets her power. So it's like, she gets kidnapped, Luffy's born. That's what it is. Which is why I believe that Luffy's mom could be someone tied, probably Tritoma, or, you know, Toritoma, whatever the name is. The other Empress of Amazon Lily. That timeline works. Not the timeline of the fruits. The timeline of him being born. Which means that Hancock has had her fruit for as long as Luffy's been alive, so she's had her power for 20 years. Which means 18 years prior to God Valley. That fruit would have been within some mystery circulation. So someone could have had the fruit. Saeed said Sawyer had a theory similar to that. To what? Sorry, I'm like behind on the chat, so I don't know what I might have said or what the chat was saying in regards to that. Kai said, hey, Randy, huge fan. Thanks for all your work in the community. Appreciate you, Kai. Thanks for stopping by. Growth Stocks member for 1 month said, the key reason why Blackbeard has the Davy Jones fruit is because of his ability to steal devil fruit powers and give to his crewmates, which doesn't fit a Logia. Well, I buy the idea that, like, his fruit might not really be a Logia, but I don't know. Real One said, wouldn't Gloriosa have the fruit? Not if she's alive. Volkasard said that I want Wong to have Moria's fruit. He gets it when he discovers it on Pirate Island. The Rocky Port incident involved Wong, and that happened in between the time skip, implying that Wong was alive during the entire pre-time skip. So him having the shadow fruit doesn't work timeline wise, unfortunately. I don't know. Wong looks like he could be King Seki's brother. Guy said, "I'm sorry if I'm forgetting, but is it confirmed that rocks ever even had a fruit?" No, but it's it feels implied through the flame on the skull in his flag on his ship. So, you know, things that have been thrown around is that he had the darkness fruit, he had the Maramara no Mi, he is part Lunarian, which seems unlikely at this point. But those were all theories that, you know, that made sense to me over the years. There's a theory in the chat last week about an oil fruit and that he could ignite his flame, the flame on his head, which I liked. I thought that was fun. So I don't know. I feel like he has to have something fire related, or, you know, something that feels like that. Which is why, if the timeline worked, the soul fruit or the revive fruit would have been interesting. You know, if it was like a green flame, but the timeline doesn't work. Rocks maybe another hockey man. I don't know. I think I'm gonna say I'm Team Devil Fruit just because of the flag. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I want him to have a Devil Fruit that makes us look at his flag and go, oh, duh. Axel said Randy Rocks basically said he was too early to emu, like Roger said at Laugh Tale. I don't know. I saw it more as like a taunt, like just the biggest aura farm in the series. Like, I'm coming for you next. I know you exist. I'm here. I snuck past everything. You didn't see me. I'm that guy. I'm him. And you're not gonna get me now. But I'm coming. And then he did the Niles vanish. And I appreciate that. Emu took that personally. Weekly Joan and Superden said, if Blackbeard's Abyss is the locker and Whitebeard's deal with rocks included your treasure goes to the locker when you die, then it could explain how Blackbeard stole it. Is that based in any lore in the series or in anything that we know about Davy Jones's locker. Emu's observation, Hockey was on vacation during that moment. On war. Jen said Rox had erased from history because he met Emu. Roger didn't meet Emu, so he was allowed to exist in history. Roger, by getting the laugh tail and all of that, would have had to have known about Emu. And I wouldn't be surprised if, like, Rox and Roger had a conversation about all of it, where, like, by the end of his life, Roger had to have known about Emu. But it's that Roger went out of his way to make sure that the world knew who he was. Turning himself in, making a public execution, broadcasting about this treasure, and igniting the next era. Was something that clearly didn't concern Rox. He was more in it for himself and his people, and didn't really care about inspiring anybody else. So I think that some version of that, which needs some tweaking, is probably what the difference actually was. Crush said, do you think Rox's promise to Emu put BB on a course to fight Emu? Blackbeard has been building towards that fight for a while, but it's hard to imagine it not being Nika and Luffy versus Emu. I like the idea of Blackbeard finishing pretty much everything that his father started. But there has to be some fatal flaw there, because he didn't grow up with his father, and I don't like the ideas of his dad still being alive or inside of his body and, like, telling him what to do and, like, all this other stuff like that. I don't know, that kind of gets, like, a little crazy for me. I know that Oda would find some way to do it where it would work, but my mind can't, like, wrap around it. So, you know, there have been, you know, we've talked about things here, you know, like, does Blackbeard get there first and kill Emu, and Luffy never even has an interaction with Emu? You know, that's one way to set up Blackbeard as the final antagonist versus Emu. I don't know if I care enough one way or the other, because Emu was only introduced to the story 5-6 years ago. They're a baby in this story. Whereas Blackbeard is someone that I'm accustomed to, someone that has been a part of every conversation involving One Piece for 24, 23 years. So Seal Vladimir super and said, I bet on Yami Yami. Rox's flag looks like an evil Nika. Next chapter is 1156. Chapter 156 introduces Bon Clay. First thing he does is copy Luffy. Interesting. I don't think that it's going to be largely important that Bon Clay copied Luffy first, but chapters of Bon Clay. What I like about that, though, is that we could see Higurashi, right? She had the Mane Mane. So 1,000 chapters later, we get from when we are introduced to that fruit, we see another character that has that fruit. So that's what you've sold me on with that super chat, is that we're going to see Higurashi, who we know had some tie to rocks because she turned into Shiki, and arguably, we don't know, but that might have been fucking. I hate that name, by the way. Buckin. It's like, it always sounds so wrong when I'm saying it. I prefer just saying Bakin. DJ Red Comet said Rock seems to be more popular than Roger in terms of aura. I mean, I'll tell you something. You could argue his execution, but I don't know if I've seen Roger aura farm the same way that I just saw Rock's farm. Like, that man was digging for nutrients. He was getting in there. Even Garp farmed harder on full lit out of his prime. Yeah. I guess Divine Departure was like an aura farm for Roger. I don't know. When we eventually get to God Valley and all that, I'm gonna need to see why Roger was that dude, because right now Rox is that dude. Saeed said that Rox is an anagram of cross. In Japanese, it's Rokusu. Kurosu. Isn't that one of Blackbeard's attacks also? Kurozu. What does that get us, though, that anagram? Obviously, a cross has 4 points, so 4 road poneglyphs. double cross. Yeah, Kurozu in kanji means black or dark water. X marks the spot. Yep. Cross guild. Oh, okay. The buggy connection. Okay, alright, okay, now I get it. Now I'm following. Alright, cross guild, yes. My favorite organization. Which slipped my mind for 5 minutes there. This was, what was it? They're all 1 year old during God Valley? Buggy, Shanks, and Blackbeard? I feel like we did this last week, and it was a thing where maybe Buggy was born a year after God Valley? Is he 39 now or 37? Or was that when we were... we were seeing if Frankie had anything to do with it, and he was born a year after or something. It's 39, alright, so he was 1. Blackbeard's 40. Yeah, okay, so I knew it was a thing where there was a year apart between those two. They gotta have different moms, though. If they're actually related. Or Rox has a brother or something. I don't know, I after I went back to 966 and I see the interaction between Buggy and Blackbeard when they were kids, I feel like if Oda says they're related in any way, then I feel like it's forced. But I can't argue with the bounty poster looking exactly like Zabek, all the way down to the hand placement. And it's obviously got to be intentional, but I just don't understand what the intentionality is. Crush said, Randy, did you notice that Loki's fit in the current timeline is quite similar to Rox's fit in Flashback? No shirt, leather pants, but it's there, yeah. Very true. With the, the same sort of mink coat cape type thing as well. I do want Loki and Blackbeard to meet. This one's going to be a lot of fun when it's animated. One of the interesting things about Rox's flag to me that, you know, I don't know if it really will matter or whatever, but there's like, you know, a Vinsmoke curl to the flame inside the skull. I don't know if it's gonna matter. Saeed said, and if you say cross-guild in Japanese, it would be Kurosugiru do. Kurosugiru means too black or too dark. Take another look at this chapter, see if there's anything else that's piling up. If you guys got anything else that the world has been saying this week, let's get it all out now. I'm just going to read quietly to myself for a little bit. See if there's anything else I can pick up on. Now, are we in agreement that these 5 kings have been attacked and captured by Zebek? Like, is that what we're supposed to think? It's an abduction. They were taken by a large man dressed in black. Now, what's interesting to me about this concept of them saying that he was a large man is incongruent to the introduction silhouette, which, you know, of course, silhouettes have been known to shift in this story, but I feel like it's always been implied that Zebek was like a normal-sized human. But the difference there is that Teach is like, I'm just throwing a number out here, but he's like 11 feet tall or something, you know, like most villains in One Piece. So this feels like a retcon that Zebek is actually like a super tall dude. Chris Stewart thinks that Rox took out Akainu's pops. We talked about that last week when we heard they killed an admiral. I don't care. Like, there's some things where it becomes interesting, and we talked about this earlier in the stream. You know, it's like, it's always a dance of like worrying that the world feels too small when too many characters are connected. I'm okay with there just having been an admiral that has no connection to anybody in the future that was killed by Rox. I'm also okay with someone having a vendetta against Blackbeard because of it, but, you know, if that was the case, and we also talked about this last week, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but it adds a little more context, or, you know, irony. It adds irony to the Blackbeard Akainu scene right before the time skip, where he's got Bonnie and then he runs away when Akainu is coming. And meanwhile, like, his dad was all about the smoke and potentially killed Akainu's dad. But from that perspective as well, seeing the way that Akainu moved during Marineford, you know, Dragon's son. Like, he obviously has a vendetta against Dragon, but I don't particularly remember him having any specific vitriol for Blackbeard in particular. And I feel like if his dad was murdered by his dad, Akainu's the type of guy that would be like, sins of the father, like, I'm gonna kill this man for what his dad did. Because he moved that way in regards to Luffy with Dragon. I feel like we got a little more context for Emu design-wise in this chapter, where Emu is potentially wearing a similar shawl to what Gunko is wearing here, or that's their hair blowing in the wind. I don't know. I want to know, and this is my issue with all of this right here, is that I want to know what Rox was doing prior to this. Like, I wish he was a king, you know? That was here at the Reverie, and then something happened, and then he, like, decided to, like, take over the world. Like, what has he been doing for 20, 30 years to get this strong, and then decide on this very day, I'm gonna go find the king of the world? That's my only issue here. I want to know what he was doing yesterday. This clash between strangers eradicated any sign of others for 5 kilometers around. Now, are they saying that the Conqueror's Hockey from this blast, like, knocked everybody out? Or are they saying, like, they destroyed everything? Which, by the way, like, if I'm remembering correctly, 5 kilometers is also the blast radius of the Alabasta bomb. So, like, it's wild. Real One said, what if he was a slave? That's interesting. So this is Harold jumping off of the red line. Like, that's crazy. That's an aura farm. I couldn't tell on my first read if it was Zebek jumping or Harold jumping, but now on this read I'm realizing that it's Harold. Got Zebek and his buggy poster. People just joining, this is the second read. I'm like doing a finer read. Destroying the Gate of Justice is like insane. See, I like this too. His activities were always hostile towards the government. Like, it doesn't say that, like, he was going around and, like, actively targeting people. So it just reaffirms this idea that I feel like this dude had a code. And in order to do Davy backfights and all that stuff, like, there's an element of code involved in all of that. Foxy went against it by you know, cheating. But I feel like he probably did not. I like how you said at this point his motley crew of miscreants flew no flag. I wonder if he did that on purpose so that someone couldn't take his flag. See, here's the thing, right? And this goes back to the earlier conversations about Crocodile and like his potential involvement with Marlon, which is my headcanon right now. Is that he knew about Pluton, created this plan to go to Alabasta and all this stuff. And it's like, how would he know something so secretive in the world unless he had a tie to someone on this crew that knows the secrets of the world? That's the only thing that makes sense to me. Like, he had to have connections to somebody that really knew stuff, even if they knew it, you know, it wasn't completely right. Because obviously Roger had to go and get the, you know, the truth, but they had to have known something. very interesting that, you know, he says this is the prologue of my life. Like he's thinking about his life in a 3-act structure in a way. He's a planner like his son. Checking out what you guys put in the chat now that I finished my other read. Did I see the straw hat in Rox's hand during the David Back fight? I'm looking at it now. It doesn't look like a straw hat to me, but I see why people would think so. The fact we got more screen time for Rox than Dragon before GTA 6 is crazy. Miguel, Zoro can cut buildings. Not too hard to believe he cut down the gates of justice. It's just, when I think back to that part of the story, I think of the gates of justice as something like impenetrable. Like it was such a thing that was, you know, if Sanji didn't pull that lever, they would have never gotten out of there. And here, this guy broke it, destroyed it. They had to rebuild it. But it's like, which gate of justice did he destroy? The one leading to Impel Down? The one leading to Enies Lobby? The one leading to Marineford? Which one? Which one had to be rebuilt? Foxy was born the year God Valley happened. He could be a child of one of these people. Maybe not one of the ones in this chapter, but one of the other ones. Ones we'll meet next week or something. Dax in the chat. Just got here. What do you think of the chapter, Savage Gang? I love it. Marlin is definitely Crocodile Shanks. You know, thought it could have been, you know, what's his name, the underworld boss connection to Mads. I mean, there still could be some sort of relation there as well, but Dufeld. But I like it being Marlin. Dak, I think that 7 of the Rock's pirates got squarted, whispered into their ear during God Valley, turned on Rocks, and then became the warlords. To tie into all of the stuff that I've always felt about Wang Zhi in the first place. He's gonna lead the betrayal against Rocks, so that he can actually handle this plan the way that the government thinks the plan is happening. And then he's going to get fat off of it. Saeed said Wang Zhi's title in this chapter is Pirate Guru, which could be translated as Pirate Cultist. The term in Japanese means the founder of a religious sect, and Caribou has religious themes when he was burying. Yeah, he was definitely saying some things in his introductory chapters and all of that that lines up with what you're saying. Are we on break? Alejandro Salas Superintendent said, did Rox ever want to do a debut back on Roger? Probably, but I'd buy that Roger just said no. Dax said, so hyped debut back fights are important again. Cross Guild versus Straw Hat debut back is coming. I hope so, man. Chin said, Randy could emu reverse Rocks in God Valley. Well, we talked about that last week also, which is a very possible. AJ said it might be time to swap out Zoro Pack for a Rocks emote. Which one? Bi-weekly for a month? Okay. DK, do you think Marlin is Beige's dad or just a father of one of the mafia bosses Beige took down in the West? I don't think that he's Beige's dad. I'll put it this way. I don't want him to be Beige's dad. I mean, he could be Beige's dad, and then, like, in the same way that, like, Dragon is Garp's son, but you could argue that, like, his real son was Kuzan growing up or something. You know, it could be a thing where, like, Beige... How old is Beige? $40. 42. Crocodile's 46. So yeah, like Croc could be the person that Marlin raised to be like his successor. Something like that. Dax said 100% agree. Wang Zhi definitely betrayed Rocks. That's how he was given the spot on Hachinosu. And then I wonder what this means for Caribou. If Wang Zhi is his dad, will he betray Blackbeard? Crushnaut said, my prediction for the next chapter, Flashback moves forward. Loki learns about Rox's defeat at God Valley. Loki states his dream. Loki eats a devil fruit. Maybe some lore about the Komo Komo as well. They're on their way to Hachinosu, and they spent, you know, like 3 pages of this chapter, like, giving us lore on Hachinosu, so I feel like we're owed this raid on Hachinosu next week. Like, I want to see that. Oda said we don't have time in the story for the Rocky Port incident, but, I mean, we better have time for this Rocky Port incident. DK said, not to go against both Randy and Dak, but I just don't see the relevance of a Straw Hat versus Cross Guild Davey back fight. I mean, that's what the video's there for. Go into everything in the video. There's certainly more for the Cross Guild to gain than the Straw Hats, but it's like it's crazy how high the stakes can get when you start thinking about the minutiae of it all. Still might be like my favorite video. I don't know if it'll actually happen, but man, do I love the idea of it. Laser says, because Bucky knows he can't beat Luffy, so he calls for a Davy back for the Poneglyph rubbings. Yeah, exactly. It's a way for him to be imposing without being physically imposing. Like, he's not going to beat them physically. And that's also why, in the video, I talk about how, you know, if I was writing it, I would have Buggy swap himself out for Mihawk for the combat round, which would then cause a stir between Luffy and Zoro, where Zoro would then have to be the one to fight Mihawk. Even though Luffy would be like the one, he'd have to get subbed out, thinking that he was going to fight Buggy. Oh, but yeah, I love this chapter. This chapter definitely like inspired me. Got a lot of wheels turning. This talked about stuff that means something to me as a One Piece theorist, as a One Piece fan, as somebody that, like, you know, pays attention to the little details here. So all of this together was this is what I want when I read One Piece. I want these long conversations that give me answers and context to different things. So that reveal characters that have been teased for, at this point, years. So this is a 10 out of 10 for me. I think I'm going to wrap things up here, guys. And then we'll catch back up for 11:56. I like the idea of doing a theory for theory, just because there is a lot to talk about after this particular chapter. I don't know who I would do it with. I don't know if I have the time to set one up. I'm more inclined to try to find time to do a video where I talk about all this Warlord stuff that we were talking about in the stream here. I don't know if I'll have time for that either, though. But I'm glad we're on break. No, you know what? Actually, I can't do a Theory for Theory next week because I'm not even going to be around. So it's actually good that we're on break, because I'm going to be in San Diego for San Diego Comic-Con. So it's actually perfect. So no, there will not be a stream next week. Yeah. So that's cool. I think he said, did you explore North America in the 1700s? Because right now you're Captain Cook.
Someone cooked here.
Yeah, if anybody's going to be at Comic-Con, maybe you'll see me. I'm not going to be there all days. Probably be there on Saturday, maybe for a little bit on Thursday. I don't know. Still up in the air. But, D-Joel said, Randy, do you think Rock came back to see Emu before God Valley? I'd love it if he just, like, kept appearing and disappearing, like, multiple times. Like, hey, just a reminder. I'm still here. But everything at God Valley is, like... I bet it was... You know, all the 5 elders show up to, like, make sure that they can take this guy down. And then ultimately, like, it's his own people. And that's the sad part of it. Yeah. But alright, guys. Yeah. I am inspired to do a video, but no promises. I don't know if I'm gonna have the time, but look out for one either way, because I do feel like I do like this idea of this being the start of the Warlord system. That's 7 members of the Rocks Pirates were the original Warlords. It's fun to me, but we'll see, because I'm going to be super busy. And we may get our answers next week anyway, who knows? Or not next week, but in 2 weeks. Alright, guys. Shout out to Moogie, member for 20 months, in member chat. Said, hey, Randy, been a while. Hope you've been doing well. Thanks, Moogie. Yeah, you know, keeping on. Ending the stream here, though. Catch you guys for 11:56. 11 Goma. This is a banger. This one was a banger.
I've been swimming deep, deep. Savage.